drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a very warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Sunday Sermon. We start off the show this week in very sombre mood and massive condolences to the Henry de Bromhead family, Heather, his wife, all the staff, the yard that knew poor Jack de Bromhead, who tragically passed away pony racing on Saturday. A terrible tragedy, and all Bar Stewards send our condolences, and we can only think at this time what the family must be going through. Absolute terrible tragedy. So we pass on our best wishes for what little good it'll do. It's a sad thing. John, it's a terrible thing, isn't it?
Absolutely awful. I mean, as I was saying to you before we came on air, if anything happened to Lee or Amy, I mean, it'd flatten either of us, wouldn't it? And,
yeah.
I mean, you can't imagine what the family's going through. There's no words to make them feel better. All you can do is just send your best wishes.
Yeah, I felt decidedly numb yesterday evening. It really did. Anyway, right. We're going to move on because the show must go on, and this is the show that's not as shit as some other podcasts anyway. And joining me tonight, usual John Leng and Chris Lowe Malver, and also a little special guest for us tonight, joining us to make a fourth wheel. It's Jack, punting winners off of Twitter. And a big warm welcome to you tonight, Jack.
Evening, chaps. Evening, Lee. Thanks for having us on. Must admit the punting winners is slightly ironic, as I'll go on to probably explain. But yeah, no, cheers for having us on.
Yeah, no, it should be a corker of a show, and we're going to start it off in usual fashion, and that's by going through some of the racing this weekend, which was rather, well, we've been blown away stateside, and we've got some controversy at Baden, and there was the small matter of Minzal destroying the Sprint Cup field yesterday at Haydock. Okay, so we'll start off at Haydock, actually, where bit of controversy. The old watering problems, John, Jack, Chris. I mean, this is the thing. So Haydock decided not to water, and then they ended up with mass problems getting mass non-runners across the boards. So like we said, John, on a previous show, the trainers are fully behind this. They don't want fast ground, do they?
No, that's it. Just don't want to bear it, do they? I mean, it's clear because, I mean, it took a quick anecdote in about a friend's horse that ran yesterday and broke the track record. They didn't want to run. It was my friend Jason's insistence that look out though he ran. They were all set to pull him out because it was too quick.
It's this thing. I mean, I suppose yet again, and it's quite weird because punters, as we know, are the lifeblood of this sport, and it's no good to the punters. Overwatered slop is no good to punters. It never has been and never will be. Like you've said many a time this summer, you won't have a bet on the July course. It's absolutely needs shutting down. But yet trainers are more than happy to. I mean, is this the modern game? I mean, did trainers have the same attitude 20 years ago, John?
Of course not. It's just the trend now, isn't it? I mean, they all talk about safe ground, and I don't know whether they're breeding more cripples or what. I don't know, but I mean, I'm really interested to know what the injury score was yesterday. How those that ran.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hopefully we can be able to get. We've got Daniel Kubler lined up to come on the show. Hopefully, he can sort of share a thought on why trainers are so not keen to run horses on sort of good to firm ground. I mean, it just seems like we've knocked 10 points off the going sticks, but that's still too quick. Very, very, very strange. But that's what it is. Obviously, it's trainer power, and obviously it was disappointing for Haydock yesterday. Kirkland, normally the evil villain of the piece, producing ridiculously overwatered grounds, decided not to bother. and it's backfired on him in particular. And yet Stickles, who disgracefully chucked on 20 mils last week, 10 mils Monday, 10 mils Wednesday. This is despite showers around. And look what we ended up with, 2.5 mils of rain on the day. We ended up with absolute slop at Ascot, John.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? You know, I mean, I've lost count of the times I've ended up giving Tellrate an absolute coating. I'm not going to criticise him now for chancing his arm and producing really fast ground for a championship race, because I think we ended up with a championship style performance.
We did. And again, this is the thing, you see. Minzal, it's by Memas. Memas, you know, a famed at the moment as a sire prodigy for going on quick ground. So Minzal absolutely bounced off it. You know, I don't see a problem with this at all. But trainers obviously have a different mindset, and they obviously call the tunes in terms of whether they run or not, which then affects levy and stuff like that. So punters are screwed, really. We have to bet on overwatered shite, like you said, John. Turn them into all weather tracks.
Well, it'd take it out of the equation, wouldn't it?
It would. We'd have none of this nonsense. Non-runner because of the ground. Although we did get one the other day on the all-weather non-runner because of the ground. Too slow. The surface was too slow.
Was that?
Yeah, there was somebody pulled the horse out the other day. I can't remember which
Kempton,
one.
wasn't it?
Yeah, Kempton. That was it. Yeah,
The trainer was.
Can't remember.
Well, whoever he was, he's about as much use as taste buds on an arsehole.
Don't know where you get these.
Some section of the community would find that rather good, actually having taste buds on the arsehole. Don't write it off.
Yeah.
Steady.
Yeah.
You see how quickly it degenerates.
Yeah, exactly. Well, alternative.
We've not done 10 minutes, and we're talking about arseholes and taste buds.
I'm making an innocent remark, and then people are putting all sorts of filth on it.
Literally.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that thought in mind, we'll take a look at Haydock, Port Kirkland. Not really much to say, really. I'd say let's look at the Betfair sprint. It's obviously Minzal, very impressive. Rohan ran okay, but I think Minzal just were a class apart on that quick ground job.
Yeah. I mean, Rohan ran a nice enough race, really, for a long-range pick. I mean, you were all over him for this since Ascot, really, weren't you?
Yeah.
And you can't really crab horse for running third in a long-range target like that. I thought Dolly asked him a fair question, but, you know, we did want it to a certain extent, so can't knock it too much for that. No, I mean, the win was just super impressive.
Yeah, and Owen Burrows is sort of turned into a trainer this season, isn't he? You know.
Well, he's had to. We Shadwell selling probably 2/3 of his horses.
Yeah, he's sort of fucked into life, isn't he? This should put him in the shop window, you'd think. But God, it's a strange game. This Joe Tweet going by the wayside this year, perfectly good trainer. Yeah.
Less said about Harry Dunlop.
I think I've noticed that Owen Burrows is sort of attracting a few interesting outside owners. You'll be aware of the owner O.S. Harris, who has horses with Mulholland and Gary Moore.
Yes.
I noticed he stuck one with Owen Burrows. And also Roger Ingram, of all people. How about that?
Oh, Dirty Roger.
Yeah. So it's interesting diversification there. So he's obviously getting himself out and about, is Owen Burrows. So it'd be interesting to see what he does on the all-weather this winter.
Yeah. No. Well, you know, he obviously proved he can do the job if he gets the horses. Jack, did you watch the Sprint Cup? Did you manage to catch up?
I did, yeah. I was with yourself, Lee, on Rohan actually, and as you said, I thought he ran an okay race. I was surprised with the kind of restrained enough ride from Holly. Really, I thought she'd go too soon, like she did last time at was it Newbury?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't give up on him. I think Ascot in the slop could be to his taste. Obviously, of course, he likes a bit stiffer over the 6.
Yeah.
I think I had a quick check before we came online. I saw him around 14s. I don't think that's too shabby.
No, he's in great order. They shouldn't have run at York, and that's. I'd sort of mentioned. I knew somebody that knows the owner, and I actually got him to send a message saying don't run at York, but that's what they thought of my advice. They ran at York, so yeah, I knew York wouldn't be his track. But anyway, it enabled me to have a little bit more on the day on the exchanges because of that poor run last time at York. But no, credit to the winner. Looks a really, really good horse, Minzal. I famously said on a show earlier this year I didn't think he'd done that well physically this year. So how about that for tipping? If you're going to get it wrong, get it spectacularly wrong, I say.
Those Gimcrack winner, they tend to be pretty set at toe, don't they?
Yeah, I just didn't think he'd. That was just my untrained eye, moderate paddock judge. I just didn't think he'd maybe filled out like you'd ideally want, but there we go. That's it. All paddock judges are skint, barring John, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure Ken's made a few quid tipping the odds on shop before every race.
Oh, Ken's not daft.
Ken's beer packet keeps him afloat.
Ken's definitely not daft on that one. When there's a 4 to 5 shot, yes. He knows he's got a 55% chance of winning, so you just tip that up. Right, we'll go on to Ascot, where I think a race that sort of caught the eye. We did well tipping. We did La Yakel in the Heritage Handicap, and John with When the Dealing's Done. A very impressive winner of the last race, and if you listen to John's quick 46 said on YouTube, if you listen to John's reasoning on the show, John was absolutely spot on as what he said. So nice to sort of do that. The one I tipped up in the big handicap, the 7 furlong handicap that Fresh won, was backed off the boards. It was like into 4 to 1 fav, and King Kong Callan, decided to not turn up really. But I think the stand side wasn't the place to be, as it turned out.
No.
It seemed you want to be middle, which was rather strange. But given that the ground was really sloppy, then who knows what reasons why tracks ride that. So there's not much at Ascot to talk about. Kempton, the September Stakes was a complete farce. Do you know what? What bores me about the all-weather chaps? If you go beyond a mile on the all-weather, the amount of tactical race on the all-weather is ridiculous.
Yeah,
they just right. So they ride like Australia. So what they do is they bomb out at traps, and then as soon as they go around first bend, everyone's slamming anchors on. So everything's pulling hard in behind. Everything's then stacked up. But no one ever seems to go a proper gallop. And it frustrates me even more in these sort of 2 mile all-weather handicaps where, these poor old barges are being asked to do 31 miles an hour for 2/3 of the race. And then they're asked to run 4 furlongs sprinting. They don't know what's hit them. But I don't know why jockeys just don't, or somebody just doesn't. Even Gallop is fine for staying races. Like to win staying races from the front. But none of them do. They just seem to get it from park the bus, and it just becomes an utter farce. Who can sprint the best?
Mark Wand and Callum Shepherd must have known they were done ducked after about 3 furlongs yesterday.
Yeah, actually, bizarrely, John, your massive price selection, Universal Order, shaped nearly just about the best horse in the race.
It probably wouldn't have been far off, yeah.
It's run an absolute belter from last. I mean, it's come from a worse position than Due by Honour, and like I say, if you watch the race back, that's the one that you take out the race in terms of a bad luck. But you've been simcocked, John.
Well, it's not the first time this season, is it?
It won't be the last, I'm sure.
No.
I was a little bit surprised, Lee, with the Dubai Honour run. I mean, I don't know what you guys think of his campaign. It's been a bit of a strange one, given how promising he looked the back end of last year. Anyway,
I think this is the one. I mean, we love the shirt, as you know, and the shirt's just different class. But I think this is one horse. He's probably not done very well on. This is the one where he's not been true with his placing. I thought
It should have been Glen Baden.
It could have been Cologne for some random group 2 or something. But fair enough. I mean, I don't know why he ran against Baid, really. You know, you're turning up at double carpet. Don't know why. And then to me, like John actually said it on show on Friday, and he said that he felt that, didn't you, John? You said that this must have been an afterthought, really. It's like, oh, well, we ran at York, well, let's just park up here, see what we do.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, just about every horse that comes out of the shirts yard, you get the feeling he's got a plan for. All season, I've had the feeling that they've been going from race to race with this not really giving a fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So Jack, in our opinion, I think he's just been probably poorly campaigned, and I don't know. He's a bit sluggish out of the traps at Kempton. Maybe that run against Baid at York's just knocked the edge off him, you know, in that Kempton race. So just a bit disappointing. Like you said, Jack, disappointing. Really, he probably should have disposed of them.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, he's very ground dependent, isn't he? So he might get some slop in the next kind of month or two. But yeah, and I mean, you look at the French horse that beat him at the back end last year, and I think that lost today at kind of 1-4 or something itself. So yeah, strange bit of form that.
Indeed, very impressive winner in the Cyrenia in the 3:15 Mischief Magic. I'm waiting to see the sectionals on that. But I thought that did incredible to come from that position. I genuinely thought at the halfway stage, trap 12, 6 furlongs, Kempton, that's no good. Especially when you dropped in and you just wide all the way. And literally that must have done some serious, absolute afterburners in the last 2 furlongs. So I can't wait to check that.
Well, I mean, Pat Dobbs must be worth fucking 10 lengths or 10 stuff. That must be. So.
No, that's what I mean. So there's plenty of Mischief Magic. That is a nice horse, real nice horse. So I know I'm probably not telling anyone anything, but that's how it was. Okay, so that's about it really for the domestic action worth talking about. But there was a small matter of a horse in California last night that seems to have you had to look twice, really. You had to watch it twice. You had to look at the time. You had to look at what it'd be, and then try and assess the performance. Jack, did you see Flightline last night?
I did. I mean, it was, you know, on the bare face of it, it was pretty extraordinary, really. And obviously, I've seen quite a lot of the backlash today on Twitter, and got a little bit stuck in myself because, you know, I mean, he's beaten the Dubai World Cup winner, eased down by nearly 20 lengths, and then people seem to be a bit confused as to why he's been. I think he got 143 from time form. But yeah, I mean, probably something we'll go on to discuss later, so I won't kick the rant off too soon. But there does just seem to be that general perception that, you know, we look to bring horses like this down rather than celebrate a win of that nature. I mean, obviously he's got to go and back it up, and I'm sure he probably will do at the end of the year at Keeneland. But yeah, you know, from my perspective, I thought it looked pretty special.
I think the thing is, if he'd done it at York, then people that were crabbing it on Twitter this morning would have probably been cracking one off.
Absolutely. I mean, just to put this into perspective, like Jack said, it's beat a Dubai World Cup winner by nearly 20 lengths. Now, before anyone says, well, they could have all run below form. It was 0.17, so that's what in length to probably about a length outside Candy Ride's 18-year-old track record, and that was geared down. So I'm no doubt if Pratt would have pushed this one out, it probably would have beat the track record. So that's that. Before anyone says, well, everyone run below form. Secondly, it's won all its 5 races by an aggregate of 62.5 lengths. 13.5 on debut, 13 lengths second start, then goes for a grade 1, wins it by 11.5. Then another grade 1 at Belmont, wins by 6. And then 19.5, the first time it's tried at a 1.25 miles, which is probably what it's bred to. A mile and a quarter. That's its sort of like peak distances on pedigree. You can't knock it. If you say Country Grammar's ran to, I don't know, let's say Country Grammar's run to 120, which is slightly below its previous form. If you say 120, it's got an official rating of 115 country grammar, but I think that's a little bit stingy. It was 119 rated when it won the Dubai World Cup. So let's say it's ranked 119. If you're beating it by nearly 20 lengths, that puts you on at least sort of 142, 143 at the pound and a quarter per length, or you want to have a weight conversion. I mean, this is astonishing. That performance in itself could be better than what Frankel ever achieved in terms of numbers. Thoughts, John?
Well, what's that brown now?
Which one?
His mother.
What feather?
I mean, winners under both codes, on the dirt and on the turf.
Yeah.
She's by Dynaformer. I mean, everybody's going to fancy her chucking a Kentucky Derby winner out now, aren't they? I mean,
yeah.
She must be worth a fucking mint.
Yeah, it's. I mean, truly astonishing performance. I agree with what Jack's saying. There'd be a few on Twitter sort of like not believing, and when Timeform produced the ratings, you got a lot of people ridiculing the bear whatever, but it just they're wrong to ridicule it. It literally is. I mean, he looks a freak. He's just absolute freak. And John Sadler, the trainer, says the key to him is just not running him too often, because he gives you absolutely every ounce on so you leave him fresh. So that's why he's obviously coming. He races at like quite wide intervals. So I haven't got a problem with that. It's a serious tool that will destroy the Breeders' Cup Classic field without a shadow of a doubt. So, but yeah,
Flavian Pratt must be the best jockey name of the last 20 years, surely to God. Fantastic, isn't it?
It's just like I said. It's just an incredible. It's a freak. I haven't seen one like it over there since Secretariat. This good, anyway. So it's certainly we're spoiled at the moment, obviously with Baid and this. So phenomenal performance. Today then, we had some tragedy in the Prix de Moulin. Caribus, I'm afraid, came to its demise. Did anyone see the Prix de Moulin today?
I did, yeah. It's gruesome stuff, really, isn't it? I mean, we've had such bad luck, particularly with this 3-year-old crop. I mean, you look at Stout's horse in the Derby. That won't see that again. Probably that'll turn up at 5 in the Hardwick or something. I mean, and you look at what's happened to the Guineas winner today. It's just puts you off your dinner, to say the least. Seeing stuff like that.
It is terrible for our classic form, John, across the board, really, isn't it?
Well, nothing's been Frank, really, has it? The Guineas form has been hard to Frank, and the Derby form as well. I mean, unless Yamal goes and hoses up in the ledger, we're scratching about waiting for Desert Crown to come out in the Hardwick.
Yeah. Very well put. Yeah, like Jack said.
Jack said when he's 5.
Jack, yeah.
Sorry, maybe 6 in that case.
Yeah.
Knowing him.
Yeah, well, Saeed Sahale's loyal to Stout. I mean, they did it with which one they'd done it before, John? Would it did Crystal Ocean have a setback?
Well, Crystal Ocean was a bit flawed after the ledger, but he come back all right. Just trying to think. Harbinger came back an absolute monster, didn't he? And so,
yeah. Well, Saeed Sale's definitely not. I mean, it's no good. Like, unless it's definitely crippled, like completely.
He's not.
Yeah. So it'll be back next year. So more tests, but yeah, Caribus, very, very sad to see that. Don't want to see that. It was awful to watch real time. I did rewind it, but only to check if it was the track or whether it had suffered an injury, and sadly it suffered an injury. Not good viewing. Then today we've had the Sardine. He's been banned at 14 days for his ride on Turf Catatasso in the Von Baden pre whatever they call it. John and Jack, thoughts on the Sardine getting 2 weeks off from probably going to somewhere really nasty for for Towser and Slim.
I don't know he cut for 14 days for that, really. But,
well, he struck it once too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very strict now. On these whip rules now, you can't do that. You can't cheat and win grade ones by whipping them to a pulp. With it.
I think this happened because this happened last week as well, didn't it? Was it Ross Coakley maybe on the Hugo Palmer horse? I mean, it sounds like their kind of interpretations are, I know ours are about to change, but they're very strict out there by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's he's back up apparently on Arc Day, conveniently. So, like I say, he's given him 2 weeks off. He didn't want to be traipsing riding these 75 horses for Towser that can't win maidens around Leafy when he's got better things to do. Anyway, that's my take on it. Convenient little 2 week break for the Tour. He'll probably come back to ride Torquatatasa in the Arc. Interesting where Baid ends up going in the end, but nevertheless, So I mean that more or less covers the international front, and just looking now at some of your questions in today, just to break the show up. A few ranters today. There's a lot of ranting this weekend, which we like. Touchdown Tez has been on, and he said, I love people with this passion. He goes, referring to racing, why don't they just bin it all off now? No one gives a fuck in any power of authority. Race meetings a mess. When the fun stops now means hand your papers over, twat. Some absolute shite riding of late again. Not called out. Sacrosanct media. Not a question. John.
I'm with Tez. Let's bin it all off and do a fucking podcast on balloon racing or something.
The thing is, it is so frustrating. I mean, you can't name any other sport that just, I don't know, like we've got a phone in media that does nothing, absolutely nothing. And where's Chapman with this punters show? Our punters are getting ripped off by bookmakers because they're freezing accounts and not getting paid. He keeps saying, yes, don't worry, I don't stress, the show's coming. When?
He's going to do it as a retrospective when everybody's took Tez's and fucked it all off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, went wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it literally is. I mean, the racing is in such a mess, and yet we haven't got journalists that are willing to take people to task within the industry. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's as if, like, what are they there for? They're there to point out the problems, the pitfalls, what's going off. The Racing Post obviously do nothing. I mean, Jane Foy says, at what point does opinion become a bias? Racing Post journals afraid of a spell at the radiator? ?
I mean, they're just, they're too embedded in, as in bookmakers now, are just too embedded in, your likes of your Racing Posts, and obviously Chapman and I think Paddy Power was one of his. I mean, how do you speak out against an employer and not get away with it? It's tough.
The PR reps. I mean, there are very few journalists. I mean, I know people mentioned Lydia and a couple of others. Fair enough, but I don't think they're vociferous enough, despite the fact that she's raised the points in the past. But the rest are PR reps, aren't they? And the Racing Post journalists are effectively bloggers, aren't they?
Mm.
Well, speaking of it, Blogger was at Baden today.
Oh goodness!
Or Baden? Is it Baden or Baden?
Baden. Yeah.
Is it Baden if you're south of Northampton?
No, it's Baden.
Yeah.
That's the correct pronunciation, I think. I don't think it's Baden.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any now over the
No, because Chris, because you say Bath, don't you? Say we're going in the Bath.
Bath.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. It's Bath.
Bath.
Honestly, I wouldn't know. My butler runs my bath, so I don't know what it's called really.
Actually, man's BAFF.
Bath.
Bath. That's what we call the race course as well. Bath.
I mean, Blogger probably called it fucking Boden anyway, so I wouldn't worry about that.
I'm going to say, I was thinking. I mean, the blogger's a big Arsenal fan, isn't he? So I'm thinking Arsenal and Man United kicked off today about 4:30. So I'm thinking, is blogger really interested in the German racing, or has he found a pub somewhere to watch to watch the football? Anyway,
he hasn't wanted to go to that, has he?
No, absolutely not.
I remember yanking his chair and saying, "You're fucking going, son. Get on the plane."
He's gone to Blossom Schnitzel. Anyway, right. So the purpose of Jack being on the show this week, not that we don't like, anyone can come on, ask to come on the show if they want to come on. If you've got interesting things to say, that's what we are. And rants, we like rants. But no, reason why, I mean, I follow Jack on Twitter and you know, he comes across knowledgeable, some good form picks as well, makes some good reasonings and some good racing debate. And I was quite surprised to learn that Jack's only like 27, which is incredible because I do think there's for somebody at that age, you know, like that hasn't been in punting, Jack. If I'm right, you've only been in punting 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, on a kind of regular basis, that's about right, I'd say.
Yeah, which is and again, so you obviously you're very very quick learner because obviously you've picked up some good angles on what to look for and I mean. But what I would say to you is, what's the point?
Very, very fair question there. I mean, less and less so by the day, if we're being honest, and the ability to do so in itself is harder and harder. But, you know, I think I like a challenge, and that's what, I mean, I've always been a fan of sports and that kind of thing. And, you know, I saw the racing thing. I'd always been, you know, a watcher of the festivals and your Cheltenhams, your Royal Ascots, etc. But I saw there being an opportunity to win a few quid essentially a few years ago, and obviously, as I said, that's less and less obvious and possible these days. But you know, that's what brought me into the sport. You know, from the early set anyway.
Do you find yourself getting shut down? Like,
yeah, I mean, look, I'm a, you know, I've increased my stakes in recent times. I've been doing okay, but you know, for the majority of that sort of 3 or 4 year spell, I mean, it would be tenors here, 20 quid there, maybe 50 quid if I really liked something. And I'm down to the bare bones. I think our friend Denise is one of the only ones that fancies laying me a decent bet these days. But you know, your Betfair sports books, your Paddy Powers, Corals, etc. Billy Mountains, as you call them, they're all gone. So yeah, it's depressing, it's difficult. I know there's, you know, it's not a unique problem to me, but as someone that's fairly new in the grand scheme of things to the support, I mean, as your man Touchdown Tez, I think you called him, I mean, what is the fucking point, you know?
Fantastic rant. I mean, that was a fantastic rant. I mean, just to bring another question into it, Mark Walsh has been on, and he says also, I mean, it's like the big corp have got such a grip on the game. It's astonishing. And this is why it makes me mad that the media don't call this out. Because, for example, Mark Walsh says the bent SP that keeps getting returned, you know, like on tracks where and I know you can't go on exchange price and just say, well, that should be the SP. But literally, they are fiddling away with the SPs. Everyone knows that. Everyone can see, especially at the night or weather meetings, where something will be like 5.5 on Betfair, you know, and traded like that for a while, and they'll return it 9-4 or like 5-2. Same in ground racing, you know, everything, you know. And look, this is not. We have no right as punters just to be expected to turn up and win money, but this is becoming more like a cartel now. This is becoming like they're owning you. They're saying, well, if you win money, we might freeze your account until you send in God knows how many documents and get you. You know, it's not like a gentleman's. Oh, sorry, that's even sexist these days. You got to watch what you say. But it's not like a wager between two parties, and then that's honoured and then paid out fairly. It's not even that anymore. We're not even there, are we, Chris? Interject.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I boil it down to its bare bones. It's having a bet. It's not buying a house. It's not buying a business or acquiring some land, etc. You're having a bet. And the hoops that people are being expected to jump through just simply to withdraw winnings, it's laughable. It's a bet. And I'm convinced that despite what some bookmakers say, lots of people will walk away from the game, or will walk into the arms of the black market. Because make no mistake, the black market will fill whatever gap is left as a result of the gambling review and the various restrictions. And I can't believe that no one's picked up on that. You know, there is an opportunity here for unlicensed bookmakers to make hay, and nobody seems bothered or concerned, etc. It's just almost as if that they don't actually understand the reality of what's happening around them.
Yeah, I mean, as I pointed out before, I'm betting unlicensed at the moment. Yeah. You know, that's how it is. I mean, yeah, I could make more effort and maybe, I don't know, have a big carbon footprint and go around Yorkshire in the betting shops, painstaking process trying to get 20 quids on per shop. But I can't be bothered. And same setting up different. I mean, I'm being honest here, barring like me and my wife, the producer, I've not set up accounts in other people's names. I can't be bothered. Because in a way, do we view that as being unsporting towards the bookmaker? Just playing devil's advocate here on the defence of the bookmaker side. Are we being a bit unsporting, or are the bookmakers unsporting in the first place?
No, they're unsporting. People are forced to set up, you know, beard accounts simply because they can't get on a reasonable stake. We're not talking about people that, you know, want an even million on something. I mean, they can be accommodated elsewhere. We're talking about in the main, leaving aside your own betting and John's, you know, it's recreational punters that are being hit. It's not just pros. It's people that, you know, will bet on a Saturday or maybe a few times in the week, and they wouldn't regard themselves as pro punters, but they would regard themselves as, you know, serious enthusiasts, but they don't rely on it for an income, and they're being hit just as hard as people, you know, for whom bookmakers provide their living, and that's mad. You know, that is absolutely mad. The recreational punter is being treated exactly the same way. I think it's bonkers. And, you know, I can only see one outcome. I just don't see anything positive or optimistic about it.
Yeah, no, I'd agree, Chris. I mean, I certainly fit that bracket myself, and it's a strange analogy, but I don't know if any of you saw recently. I think it was New Zealand. They're putting in play this smoking ban that basically they're going to incrementally increase the year you can smoke, you know, and eventually wiping out the population. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at with this now, because, you know, we're getting rid of everyone who is in the punting circle as such, and there's no one who can come in who is able to or even wants to. So, you know, where do we end up here? And it's with nothing, you know, in the in the most positive way possible.
You know, obviously, you know, punting isn't a collegiate activity. You know, everybody punts for their own reasons, and ultimately, when you put your bet down, you're if you're playing on the exchanges, you're betting against other punters. And to the same extent, when you have a bet with a bookmaker, you're effectively not really betting against a bookmaker. You're betting against other people who place bets with that bookmaker. So you know, it isn't a collegiate activity. But the problem with that is, you know, punters haven't organised themselves to rebut all the negative publicity that you see on the TV and the radio. And I've made the point before that when you watch television and there's an article or a piece about, you know, the harms of gambling, you never see the other side of the story. You have the two victims or the victim being interviewed on television, how awful gambling is, and, you know, very, very rarely do you get, you know, a bookmaker providing an opposing view or a punter. So that narrative is always unchallenged in the media, and it's because it's been going on so long. You know, I dare say lots of people who don't bet say, oh, yeah, well, gambling must be a bad thing. Look at all these people whose lives have been ruined. Yeah, stop advertising, make it harder for people to have a bet. And that's the problem.
And yet drinking is lauded. I mean, tracks are literally getting young people in these days by the following marketing policy that basically, you know, you can come and have a good time with your friends, sit in the champagne, drink all day, get absolutely rat-arsed, but don't have a bet. Yeah. Because it is bad. I mean, it's the wrong messages. I mean, surely everyone knows that if with racing without betting, he's finished. Yeah. No matter what Mark Johnston says. I mean, Mark Johnston, John thinks that Mark Johnston's going to sell ice creams and that'll make up for the levy.
I mean, talking of Mark Johnston, I mean, sorry, but I mean, he mentioned that he'd be there with Joe Toot and Harry Dunlop if it wasn't for his son, Charlie. Yeah. Right. Now, if this game is so bad and he doesn't want to be in it, does he hate Charlie? why does he want his son to go into something that's fucking finished?
Yeah.
Unless he's absolutely full of shit.
But maybe people in power, too many people in power, maybe they agree with him. Maybe there are some people in authority that actually secretly believe that the game can continue to progress and thrive without betting. Maybe that's not why they're being sort of vociferous enough in opposition to all the gambling reforms. Maybe there people think, well, yeah, okay, we'll find another way.
Well, they'll say, well, we did all right back in 1756 when we used to race for a brace of cockerels.
Exactly.
In other news this week, I mean, this show gives a lot of dishings out to the big court, particularly big court bookies. I don't like giving stick out to lesser bookies, not less, still big bookies, but not. It's just the big court. The big court's the problem. The same as Arc Racing. I give them a bit of stick. Notice this week they've put an extra 200,000 into the Donny Prize pots this week. That was badly needed though, because if we remember last season, the trainers were like not running en masse, saying it's racing for pittance. Literally typical Arc, really. Flagship. It's their Arc's flagship meeting of the year, and if they can't support that to the max, then what are Arc doing even in the game, really, apart from fleecing every fucker? So, I mean, what does everyone think about Arc chucking another 200 in? Good, it's good, yes, but I mean, we shouldn't even be here, should we?
The ledger meetings in desperate need of a couple of extra stripes, isn't it, really? I mean, I think somebody mentioned on Twitter the other day that meeting could quite easily go down to 2 days.
Definitely. Indeed. We don't need 4 days of that, do we? I mean, we'll all will be revealed when we see the field sizes next week. But and you look, you got Irish Champions weekend that weekend too. I think I did see from next year. Are they bringing it down to 3, or have I made that up? They're doing something with it. Oh, moving. Is it moving the Wednesday to Sunday or something? Yeah. I don't know what.
Yeah, that was sort of in the plans, I think. Yeah.
But we don't need 4 days of that. I mean, it's as John said, it could easily be 2.
If they're going to go to the Sunday as well, surely to goodness the ledger should be run on the Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a weird attitude to Sunday racing in this country, don't we? I mean, it's Ireland embrace it, French embrace it, but we never have.
This is it. I mean, we run our 1,000 guineas on a Sunday, don't we? So, then we wouldn't clash with the Irish champion. You wouldn't have this ridiculous situation where Godolphin and Colmar are casting around for jockeys, and it would just make sense to run the climax of the meeting on the last day.
Yeah, I particularly agree with that Sunday argument. I have no idea why we don't showcase some of our best racing on Sunday when people's off work. Well, not all people, obviously. It's apologise to people in the sort of like hospitality sector, etc., and things like that. Even retail. But generally, most people are off at weekends, and it's a chance to basically improve attendances and showcase our better action. So I genuinely believe we should be aiming to do that rather than put on 3 or 4 national hunt meetings, etc., on a Sunday that no one, that summer jump racing, etc. It's got a limited appeal on it, really. John would say he's got a limited appeal in winter.
You can cut the whole year of that if you like. That would be my vote.
Well, this is it. I mean, Jack. So you're primarily, a flat. I can tell from you're a flat punter, totally, really.
Yeah, no, I know that's kind of against the masses a little bit, but I just find the jumps game very, very mundane and boring. I'm sad to say, and not that this is particularly exciting at the minute either. But yeah, I think that whole summer jumps thing, it's even starting. Even trainers are starting to question that now. So that's got to go at some point.
Well, I've had a long-term philosophy about when you're betting. It's like making it harder for yourself, because let's say you've worked out this horse is the fastest in the race. That's what we're all trying to do, and we want to back the fastest horse in the race at the right price. That's in an ideal world. So why then do you put obstacles in the way to make that become more improbable, that you're actually going to be successful in your quest to find the quickest horse in the race at a value price, and then you hit the first 3, and it's like you're out to tens on the machine. It's like I'm trying to get my logic I'm trying to improve myself. I'm trying to think, right, how can I be better at punting on national hunt races? Like I do make money on national hunt, but not as good as what I possibly could be. And I'm trying to work out why I don't.
Ducking and diving over the sticks, I think. And I know it goes on the flat, particularly on the all weather, but over the jumps, you see these handicap hurdles, and yeah, they're unfathomable, aren't they? When the market goes against you, you know exactly what's going to happen.
Well, look at Adam GG Bets on Twitter and Alan Rogers, that former Forest player.
Yeah,
they get. I mean, fair play to him. I mean, why not? But buy a winning point-to-pointer for 25 grand or 30 grand. It looks like he's got an engine of sorts. Get it off 88.
Yeah,
and then just win 4.
Yeah.
I mean, but you'll not know until they've pressed the button. Like when they've got on, and that to me is a lot of moderate jump racing is like that. Would you say that's accurate, Chris?
Yeah, I would. I mean, you could understand it. Not criticising, but that does seem to be the MO, doesn't it, over the sticks? And I think it's easier to conceal a horse's ability, should we say, over the sticks than it is on the flats. I mean, you can hit a few, get out your ground, and get pulled up, not pulled up, but finish tailed off. I think it's easier to give a horse an easy over the sticks than it is on the flat. That's for sure.
Mm. Yeah, John, is that well summed up in your idea about national hunt racing?
It's a bag of shite, isn't it?
Yeah, in one sentence, I think you've summed that up perfectly well. I mean, that's it for me. That, as I said, a lot of Irish lads that we met at York, they love it, don't they? They love the sticks. They love the crack. But the thing is, Ireland's. I've always thought Ireland's a bit different to Britain in their attitude to jumps. They're
sort of born to it, aren't they? I know when you remember classic thoroughbreds that Vincent O'Brien launched.
Yeah.
And when that was getting to the stage where they were down to about 5 horses and the last of the money was in the pot.
Yeah.
And they were talking about winding it up. And there was a lot of the lads went to the meeting and said, well, there's sure to be a couple of fine lepers in there. Why don't we send them over the sticks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Different. I mean, if you go to the races in Ireland, you're more likely to be, what have you heard, rather than what you fancy. So the idea, that they culturally, that kind of behaviour in quotes is much more in quotes acceptable, I think. So it's a slightly different mindset as far as Irish race is concerned.
I could see a situation where our jumps game over here is wound down in the next few years, and a lot of it just gets moved. Trainers, jockeys, you're already seeing it with some of them, and they end up just national hunt becomes a pretty much predominantly Irish game.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them that I've always said this that when the nutters come for more prohibition, which I've always said with prohibitionists and people that like the whip ban merchants, unless you ban it, they're unhappy with the outcome. Whatever outcome a judicial review or the jockey club sit down and discuss with all parties, unless you do what the prohibitionists want, which is a ban on the whip, they're unhappy. And so therefore, the one thing they'll come for in racing and have to do is national hunt racing because it's the only sport they can argue. Because we can argue on flat because horses run round the field. If you see them in the paddocks, they run round the field. That's what they do. Even on the holidays and spare time, they run round the field. That's what they're bred to do. So you start then sort of like, because obviously the Grand National protests and national hunt racing, they will come for in spades. A bit like the gambling review now, where they're trying to ban gambling. The next stage will be get rid of national hunt racing because they came for fox hunting. They'll come for national hunt racing. It's an anti-country brigade by the Lyle Scott jumper wearing, Starbucks drinking, metropolitan London types that are just literally hell bent on destroying and sanitizing every form of enjoyable life activities.
Yeah. True. Much easier argument, and as you say, they're never going to be happy. So, and I think racing has made the mistake by appeasing these individuals. I mean, it's sort of, Chamberlain and Hitler, peace in our time. You know in your heart of hearts that you're only buying time. But as John has made in the past, when you get racing's leaders who are salaried employees who have a limited tenure, they're not looking 5 years in advance. They're looking at next year for their bonus because they're going to move on. So they don't have any skin in the game or long-term skin in the game. It's the same with MPs that are backing the gambling review. They're either going to get voted out or they're going to, move on to a cabinet position or another position, within the party. They're not going to have to deal with the consequences. So you're dealing with people who have a short-term interest in the topic, and that's the problem. That is the problem.
Yes, it is incredibly worrying times for us all. It's not helped. I genuinely put a lot of the fault at like a Jockey Club and the BHA for not making more noise. The media not getting on side. The media need to know this, right? No punters in the game, right? And people walk away from the sport. They ain't got their pen pushing jobs at £250 an article. They haven't got their £450 appearance money on the racing channels and so on and so on. They have to understand that. And if people start walking away in droves and the game becomes less attractive to people genuinely interested in the sport for one reason or another, whether it's not just about not getting bets on, but expenses at the tracks, where tracks are just charging willy-nilly. Absolutely. There's lots of things wrong with racing. And I mean, Jack says his interests were to get into racing. He followed the form. He's got half a brain. He can follow it all and, hopefully make a few quid. But they're shutting down those avenues. So because you can see the marketing from the big corp. It's lads, no socks, £5 hackers, have a £10 hacker, get a £5 bet free, all this shit. And
I was going to say, I mean, they've got it all wrong, haven't they? You look at that campaign they did recently. I think it's Jermaine Genus, fronting it. I mean, what have we got him fronting that for? Essentially saying, look, it's a day out. You can have, you can have a scrap and a few beers, and there's plenty cheaper ways to do that these days. You don't need to pay 40 quid to go to Doncaster or whatever, do you? So, if that's how we're trying to interest people in it. I mean, it's certainly not why I got into it. It's not why any of my friends who follow racing did. And ultimately, you ask yourself the question: if it were to just stop one day, would anyone, other than us, would anyone really care that much? And I'm not sure they would.
No,
we're aiming at. They'll only go twice a year.
Yeah,
they're never ever going to be regular race cars.
No, and several people on my various social media timelines who actually know as well in real life. Literally, they are the casual race goer. They will go they'll attend the York Ebor Saturday, maybe the Ledger Saturday. That's it. It's maybe a couple of times a year. They don't care about the running or functionality of the sport. And if the media doesn't care and ITV doesn't care, and there's no one there to say, right, the betting industry really needs to kick up the arse here because, this is serious. We're into serious uncharted waters in terms of the industry. That's it. If you can't sell the dream, to people to come along and say, right, you can make money at this. If you study the form hard and work hard, there's potential for a second income or, whatever, or at least breaking even, enjoying the sport and breaking even by just using your nous.
There's ways of doing that there's no reason why ITV, and they do their segments on whatever the frock of the month is, or what the newest gin cocktail or whatever it may be. There's no reason why they can't do a punting pointers segment where they say, look, this is a betting bank, this is what should be the basis for your betting. It can be affordable, etc. This is how you read a race card, basic tips for people that might think, actually, yeah, there's a few quid to be had here. If they're not willing to do that, and as you've all said, they pretend it's this massive taboo, and like to think the game continues without that. I mean, it simply doesn't. There's got to be some kind of admission that punting is essentially the backbone of this sport.
Well, that's going to be my latest grift. If the gambling review is unfavourable and we all can't have a bet anymore, my latest grift is if you can't beat them, join them. But except I'm going to go on the gambling education side, where I will set up a workshop to basically educate people on the odds of probability, on how, and teach youngsters life skills through probability. Probability will get you a long way in life because you can make life decisions on probability. You can sit there and work it out for yourself. And not.
You could just buy a dice.
Yes.
And have some real fun.
Yeah.
As we know.
Yeah. Right. Any other business chat? Are we all ranting out this week?
I've got a James Lindley.
Oh, you have? Yes, you told me the other day. So, John, here's the dance floor for you.
Yeah, it was the 2-year-old race yesterday at Ascot, and the market had, for some reason, spotted the horse, to be honest. And it was the James Tate one. Name escapes me at the minute.
It was in the US Constitution race, the one that won that one. Imaginary World.
Yeah, that's one. And before the race, this really, really took the eye, compared to the rest of the field anyway. Had depth, bit length to it, absolutely stood out. I thought the ride was an absolute nothing ride. He gave up what was a promising position early on, allowed the horse to drift back, and the horse ran very immature when he came off it.
King Kong Callan.
Yeah, horse definitely needed a bit more guidance from the saddle and didn't get it, I'm afraid. But that could be to our advantage probably next time out. I think this horse was fairly straight yesterday physically, but nowhere near straight in his head, and I think there's a lot more to come with that run under his belt.
Good stuff. I love your paddock stuff. I do. I do. I rave about you. So yeah. So John, Imaginary World, 2:00 Ascot. Take a look at it. Obviously to the naked eye, you'll probably look at it and think, well, don't like much of that. But there was a lot of market confidence behind it, so it must have been showing plenty.
Do think quite a bit of it, but I'm told that it was much more interested in other show.
Oh yes, sorry, I noticed that in the paddock, in the parade ring. Yeah, its cock was it in its ribs.
Yeah. It was definitely didn't have its mind on that job. It had its mind on the other job. So that could probably account for the fact it sort of ran.
Yeah, it was a good size. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Cock form now, aren't we?
Yeah, cock form. So it's John's paddock form and cock form for the Jimmy Lindley. Back it next time, and it's made, and hopefully it'll have calmed down by then. Any fillies in that race, perhaps? I don't know.
Nice little novel throw from the back at Yarmouth will do next time, I think.
Right, that's just about it from us. We've reached our time limit. We are back on Tuesday this week with the Ledger preview. Tuesday evening, myself, John, and Quentin Franks. We're also back on Friday with the normal the pre-Ledger show. That's me, John, Quentin Franks, and Nick Davis has given up from fighting Millwall fans in London to join us for the Ledger preview. So hopefully it'll be a good week for us and we can build on recent success. And I thank Jack tonight for appearing on the show. Great debut, Jack. And we'll see more of Jack, I'm sure, on the show. Well, we won't see him, we'll hear him. But there we go, because we don't see him. We've got faces for radio. That's all from us. Bye for now.